All right, so you know how I got all screwed up by the 888 Snapdragon. All screwed up. Just looking like a fool out here in the world. Don't worry, I'm old enough. It's fine. I was calling it the 875, the 888, because it seemed like the next one in line. And I just had in my head that, of course, it would be they would call it the 875. But no, they went super fancy with the 888. But now they made it even more confusing by announcing today the 870.
Oh, good.
So you had 855, 865, 865 plus. You went to the 888 on the latest flagship. 870 is obviously the previous generation chip, but with some improvements. But why are you announcing it now, right? It's a new chip, but it's an old chip. It has it's cause for a little confusion, at least for myself, writer of this article in Anantech. What is the target with this particular chip? Now, maybe they had leftover 865s that they could, I don't know, enhance in some fashion. You can see the specification between the 865 Plus and the 870. Not a significant difference. Actually, the specs look almost identical, except for, I guess, the core clock is ever so slightly improved. Is it just another overclocked version? Now, the conversation in the article was that it's not really a new chip. It could have called it the 865 Plus, or they could have called it the 865 Pro, because it has so much in common, obviously. It's not a next gen.
Well, it's only the clock speed, eh?
It's identical. It's pretty much identical, except for that slight improvement on the clock speed. Yeah, it goes up from 3.09 gigahertz to 3.2. Huh. Now, they're not saying that this is not a flagship. They're not saying that this is like they could. It's not a 700 series chip, or it's not a new version of a 700 series chip. It's a flagship chip. It's just a previous generation flagship chip. And maybe this is a branding thing. Maybe this is a thing where they feel people may rather have a previous generation flagship chip because of the marketing, because it sounds fancy. Apparently, they have cut deals already with the likes of Motorola, IQOO. How do you say IQ? IQO? OnePlus, Oppo, and Xiaomi to utilize the Snapdragon 870. So here's probably what this means is more flagship options, because these companies are putting out 17 flagships a year now. Mm-hmm. And they're rather than have another mid-range option, we get ourselves another flagship option, previous gen. So you could have the high-priced 888 variant, which would be the top-tier flagship, and then maybe you go ahead and make one of these 870 phones and kind of argue that it's a flagship, but at a slightly lower price, maybe some cost savings. So now we just have to see how these brands mesh this variety of components together to come up with the various pricing structures and spec sheets. We'll see what the customer thinks about it. If they would rather have some cost savings on the last generation, but like a really high spec version of the last generation, or if they want to go all out and pick up some 888 phone for over $1,000, seems to be the case, or around $1,000, I should say.
Yeah.